My name is Emma Rodriguez, and I'm 29 years old. For the past 8 years, my younger sister Isabella has made it her mission to overshadow me at every family gathering, every milestone, and every opportunity that came our way. But when she announced her engagement to Marcus Chen, heir to one of the biggest tech empires in Silicon Valley, and then asked me to be her maid of honor, I knew this wasn't about sisterly love. This was about humiliation. What Isabella didn't know was that Marcus Chen wasn't just some rich guy she'd met at a charity gala. He was my business partner, my co-founder, and the man I'd been working alongside for 3 years to build what would become a billion-dollar empire. The wedding was supposed to be my ultimate humiliation. Instead, it became the moment everything changed forever. Before I tell you how a single wedding ceremony exposed years of lies and transformed our family dynamic completely, please take a moment to like this video if you enjoy stories about justice being served. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. Drop a comment below because I read every single one, and your support means everything to me. Now, let me take you back to that December morning when my phone rang and changed the trajectory of my entire life. I was in my San Francisco penthouse, reviewing quarterly reports for Next Gen Solutions, when my mother called. The caller ID showed Mama, and I already knew this conversation would require all my patience. Our family had a pattern, and I was always on the receiving end of whatever drama Isabella had stirred up. Emma, mija, I have wonderful news, my mother Maria said, her voice bubbling with excitement. I could hear the smile through the phone, which meant Isabella had done something that made our parents proud. Again. What's happening, Mom? I asked, minimizing my laptop screen showing our company's latest valuation report. $2 billion and growing, but my family had no idea. Isabella is engaged. To Marcus Chen, can you believe it? The Marcus Chen from Chen Technologies. They're planning a spring wedding and she wants you to be her maid of honor. I nearly dropped my phone. Marcus Chen. My Marcus. The quiet genius I'd been building a company with for 3 years. The man who understood my vision for revolutionary AI technology. The partner who'd helped me develop algorithms that were reshaping entire industries. Marcus Chen. I repeated slowly, my mind racing through possibilities. Yes. From the Chen family. You know, the billionaires. Isabella met him at some charity event 6 months ago. Emma, our little Isabella, is going to marry into one of the richest families in California. 6 months ago. That would have been right around the time Marcus started acting strange during our meetings, checking his phone constantly, leaving early on Fridays. I'd assumed it was investor pressure or family obligations. I never imagined it was my sister. She specifically asked for you to be maid of honor, Mom continued. Isn't that sweet? She said she wants her big sister there for the most important day of her life. Sweet. That was rich. Isabella hadn't asked me to participate in anything important since we were children. Every achievement I'd ever had was immediately overshadowed by whatever Isabella was doing. When I graduated summa cum laude from Stanford, Isabella got into USC the same week, and suddenly the family focus shifted to celebrating her acceptance. When I got my first job at Google, Isabella announced she was starting an Instagram influencer career, and Mom spent hours talking about how brave Isabella was to forge her own path. When's the wedding? I asked. April 15th, just 4 months away. Isabella wants to meet with you this weekend to discuss maid of honor duties. She has very specific ideas about how she wants everything to go. Of course she did. Isabella always had specific ideas, especially when they involved me playing a supporting role in her spotlight moments. I'll talk to her, I said. Oh, Emma, I'm so excited. Both my daughters successful in their own ways. Isabella with her social media career, and now this perfect marriage. And you, with your little computer job. My little computer job. I was the co-founder and CTO of a company worth $2 billion, but to my family, I was just Emma who works with computers. Isabella had 50,000 Instagram followers, and somehow that was more impressive to them than my Stanford computer science degree and my patents in artificial intelligence. After I hung up, I sat staring out at the San Francisco skyline, trying to process what I'd just learned. Marcus Chen, my business partner, my friend, the man who knew every detail about my professional life, was engaged to my sister. The sister who had spent years making sure I felt invisible in my own family. I pulled up Marcus's contact information and stared at his number. We had a board meeting scheduled for Monday morning. How was I supposed to sit across from him knowing he was marrying Isabella? How was I supposed to act like everything was normal when he'd been living a double life for 6 months? My phone buzzed with a text from Isabella herself. OMG, Emma. Mom told you the news. I'm so excited for you to be my maid of honor. We need to meet as soon as possible to go over everything. This wedding is going to be perfect, and I need my big sister to help make it happen. Can you come to brunch Sunday at the country club? I have so much to tell you about Marcus and our plans. I stared at the message, reading between the lines. Isabella wanted me as maid of honor because she wanted a front row seat to watch me serve her once again. She wanted me there to arrange flowers, manage vendors, handle logistics, and smile while she lived out her fairy tale with a man who had no idea we were related. But there was something Isabella didn't know, something our entire family didn't know. Marcus Chen wasn't just marrying into wealth, he was marrying into a family that had spent years underestimating one of his closest business partners. I opened my laptop and pulled up our company's internal directory. There it was. Marcus Chen, co-founder and CEO, Next Gen Solutions. Next to his name was mine, Emma Rodriguez, co-founder and CTO. We'd built this company together from a shared dorm room idea into a Silicon Valley powerhouse. We held patents together, had our names on the same incorporation documents, and shared equity in a company that was about to go public. The irony wasn't lost on me. Isabella thought she was marrying up, elevating herself by association with Marcus's wealth and status. What she didn't realize was that half of that wealth belonged to her unsuccessful older sister. I had a choice to make. I could reveal the truth now, before the wedding planning got too far along. I could tell my family that I wasn't just some computer programmer. I was Marcus's equal partner in building an empire. Or I could wait. I could let Isabella plan her perfect wedding, let her bask in the attention of marrying a successful man, and see how long it took for the truth to come out naturally. The petty part of me, the part that had been diminished and overlooked for years, wanted to wait. I wanted to see how Isabella would react when she realized the sister she'd been condescending to for years was actually more successful than she'd ever dreamed of being. My phone rang again. This time it was Marcus. Emma? Hey, I know it's late, but I wanted to run something by you about the Peterson contract. His voice sounded normal, professional, exactly like it always did during our business calls. No hint that his personal life had just collided with mine in the most unexpected way possible. Sure, I said, keeping my voice steady. What's on your mind? I've been thinking about the implementation timeline. With everything I have going on personally right now, I want to make sure we're not overcommitting on delivery dates. Everything he had going on personally, like planning a wedding to my sister. What kind of personal commitments are we talking about? I asked, curious to see if he'd mention Isabella. Just family stuff. You know how it is. Sometimes personal life gets complicated and you have to adjust professional priorities accordingly. I almost laughed, if only he knew how complicated things were about to get. Marcus, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy? I mean, with the direction your life is taking? There was a pause. That's a philosophical question for a Friday night. Yeah, I think so. Why do you ask? Just, I've noticed you seem different lately. Distracted. I want to make sure everything's okay. Everything's fine, Emma. Actually, everything's great. I'm getting married in a few months. There it was. He'd said it. Congratulations, I managed. Anyone I know? Another pause. I doubt it. She's not really in our industry circles. Her name's Isabella Rodriguez. She's amazing, beautiful, successful in her own right, comes from a great family. Rodriguez. He'd said my last name without making the connection. Marcus knew I had family in Los Angeles, knew I had a sister, but we'd never talked extensively about personal details. Our relationship had always been professionally focused, built around shared vision and mutual respect for each other's technical abilities. She sounds wonderful, I said. She is. She asked me to be maid of honor, which is really sweet. I think you'd like her sister Emma. She's smart, works in tech, though I don't think she's quite as ambitious as Isabella. Isabella has this incredible social media presence and she's always working on building her brand. I bit my tongue. Marcus thought Isabella was more ambitious than me. The woman who posted outfit photos for a living was more ambitious than his co-founder who'd helped him build a billion-dollar company. I'm sure I'd love to meet her, I said. Maybe you will at the wedding. Isabella wants a big celebration and she's invited some business contacts. You might be there anyway if we invite key next-gen stakeholders. Perfect. Marcus was planning to invite me to his own wedding as a business associate, never knowing I'd already been invited as the maid of honor. After we hung up, I walked to my floor-to-ceiling windows and looked out at the city lights. San Francisco sparkled below me, and somewhere in that maze of lights was Marcus, probably texting with Isabella about wedding plans. And somewhere in Los Angeles, Isabella was probably crafting the perfect Instagram post about her engagement, ready to bask in the admiration and envy of her followers. But neither of them knew what I knew. Neither of them understood that their perfect love story was about to collide with a family dynamic that had been years in the making. I had 4 months to decide how this would play out. 4 months to watch Isabella plan her dream wedding to my business partner. 4 months to listen to my family celebrate her success while continuing to dismiss mine. 4 months to sit in meetings with Marcus, maintaining our professional relationship while he unknowingly shared details about marrying into my family. The psychology of it fascinated me. Isabella had spent years needing to be the center of attention, the successful daughter, the one with the perfect life. She'd chosen Marcus not just because she loved him, but because marrying him would cement her position as the family success story. What she didn't realize was that she'd accidentally chosen to marry the one person who could expose just how wrong our family had been about me. I made my decision. I would be Isabella's maid of honor. I would help her plan her perfect wedding. I would smile and nod and arrange flowers and manage vendors. And I would wait to see how long it took for the truth to come out naturally. Because sometimes revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's just letting reality catch up with perception. The next morning, I drove down to Los Angeles for brunch with Isabella. The country club was exactly as pretentious as I remembered. All white tablecloths and women in designer athleisure discussing their charity work and vacation homes. Isabella was already there when I arrived, perfectly put together in a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than most people's rent. She'd positioned herself at a table with optimal lighting for photos, and I could see she'd already taken several selfies while waiting. "Emma!" she squealed, jumping up to hug me. The hug was performed more than felt, the kind of embrace designed to look good in photos rather than convey genuine affection. "Oh my God, look at you. You look good, different. Are you eating enough?" It was classic Isabella. A compliment wrapped around a backhanded concern. I was actually in the best shape of my life, having finally had time and money to invest in personal trainers and nutritionists. But Isabella had a way of making every positive observation sound like worried criticism. I look different because I'm happy, I said, taking my seat across from her. That's so great to hear. I worry about you sometimes, living alone in that apartment, working all the time. But now we both have such exciting news. My apartment was actually a 3-bedroom penthouse, but Isabella had never visited, so she was working with assumptions based on her perception of my income level. Tell me everything about Marcus, I said, genuinely curious to hear her version of their relationship. Isabella's face lit up like she'd been waiting for this question her entire life. Emma, he is literally perfect. Like, I can't even believe this is my life right now. He's brilliant. He owns this huge tech company, and he's so sophisticated and worldly. And the way he looks at me, like I'm the only woman in the room. I nodded encouragingly. How did you meet? At the Children's Hospital Charity Gala 6 months ago. I was there representing some of my brand partnerships. And he was there because his company sponsors a lot of education initiatives. I was wearing this incredible Valentino gown, the one I posted about, remember? And he just couldn't take his eyes off me all night. I remembered that night. Marcus had mentioned attending a charity event, but he'd been distracted during our Monday meeting, checking his phone and seeming unusually energetic. I'd chalked it up to a successful fundraising evening. He's so different from the guys I usually date, Isabella continued, more serious, more established. He has this quiet confidence that's just so attractive. And Emma, the way he treats me, like I'm precious, like I'm this delicate thing that needs to be protected and cherished. This was interesting. Marcus had always treated me as an equal, an intellectual peer, someone whose opinions he respected and whose capabilities he never questioned. With Isabella, he apparently adopted a more traditional protective role. That sounds wonderful, I said. What does he do at his company? He's the CEO, co-founded it with some tech person a few years ago. They do something with artificial intelligence and software development. Honestly, the technical stuff goes over my head. But the important thing is that he's incredibly successful and he's going places. Some tech person. I was some tech person in my sister's description of my own company. Have you met his business partner? I asked casually. Not yet, but Marcus talks about him sometimes. I think they're close friends as well as business partners. From what I understand, it's one of those situations where Marcus handles the business side and the other guy handles the technical development. Marcus says he couldn't have built the company without him, which is sweet. He's very loyal to his people. Him. Isabella assumed Marcus's co-founder was male. She'd never even asked enough questions to learn my gender, let alone my name. The wedding planning must be exciting, I said, steering the conversation towards safer territory. Oh my God, Emma, I have so many ideas. I want everything to be perfect, like magazine perfect. I'm actually in talks with a few lifestyle publications about featuring the wedding. Can you imagine? Me on the cover of California Bride magazine? Of course she was already thinking about media coverage. Isabella had never experienced a moment that wasn't improved by being photographed and shared. I want to talk to you about Maid of Honor duties, she continued, pulling out her phone to show me a detailed notes app. I have a whole timeline mapped out, and I really need someone I can trust to handle the logistics. I looked at her list. It was extensive. Vendor coordination, dress fitting supervision, bridal shower planning, bachelorette party organization, rehearsal dinner logistics, and day of coordination. Essentially, she wanted me to function as an unpaid wedding planner while she focused on being the beautiful bride. This is a lot of responsibility, I observed. I know, but Emma, you're so good at organizing things. Remember how you used to help me with school projects when we were kids? You have this way of just taking care of details that I'm too creative to focus on. Too creative to focus on details. That was a new way of saying she didn't want to do the work. Plus, she continued, it'll be good for you to have a project. Something to focus on besides work. When's the last time you did something fun? Something just for yourself? I thought about the Forbes interview I'd given last month, discussing work-life balance as a female founder in tech, or the TED Talk I was scheduled to give next month about innovation in artificial intelligence, or the charity board I served on that funded computer science education for underprivileged kids. But Isabella wouldn't consider any of those things fun. I want this to be the wedding everyone talks about for years, Isabella said. The kind of celebration that shows everyone what Marcus and I represent together. Success, style, the perfect partnership. The perfect partnership. If only she knew about the actual perfect partnership Marcus and I had built, the one that was generating the wealth funding her dream wedding. I'll do it, I said. I'll be your maid of honor. Isabella clapped her hands together. Emma, this is going to be so amazing. We're going to have the most incredible 4 months planning together. It'll be like when we were little girls playing wedding dress up, except this time it's real. When we were little girls, Isabella had always been the bride in our dress-up games. I'd always been assigned the role of maid or flower girl or wedding planner. Some things, apparently, never changed. The next few weeks fell into a routine that felt surreal. Monday through Friday, I worked alongside Marcus, building our company, making strategic decisions, and preparing for our IPO. We were close to finalizing a deal that would make Next-Gen Solutions one of the most valuable tech startups in Silicon Valley history. Evenings and weekends, I coordinated with vendors for Isabella's wedding, managed her timeline, and listened to her endless details about dress fittings and flower arrangements and menu tastings. The disconnect between these two worlds was dizzying. During the day, Marcus and I would discuss quarterly projections and investor presentations. He'd ask my opinion on hiring decisions and strategic partnerships. He treated me as his equal, his intellectual peer, someone whose judgment he trusted completely. Then he'd leave early for dinner with Isabella, and later that evening I'd get texts from her about wedding planning. She'd tell me about their romantic evenings, about how Marcus surprised her with expensive gifts, about how he was everything she'd ever dreamed of in a husband. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming. Marcus respected my intelligence and valued my contributions when he thought of me as his business partner, Emma. But when Isabella described their relationship, it was clear he saw her as someone who needed to be taken care of, someone whose primary value was her beauty and charm rather than her capabilities. I started to wonder if Marcus was capable of seeing women as complex beings, or if he compartmentalized us into categories. Business colleagues who were intellectual equals, and romantic partners who were beautiful accessories. 3 weeks into wedding planning, Isabella invited me to meet Marcus for the first time. We were having dinner at an upscale restaurant in Beverly Hills, and she wanted to show off both her fiancé and her family. I spent an hour getting ready, choosing an outfit that was stylish but not too attention-grabbing. Isabella had made it clear that this evening was about showcasing her perfect heir-to relationship, and my job was to be the supportive sister, not to compete for focus. The restaurant was one of those places where celebrities went to be photographed, all mood lighting and expensive wine. Isabella had chosen a table that offered optimal angles for photos, and she'd already posted several Instagram stories about their romantic dinner with family. Marcus stood up when he saw us approaching, and for a moment, I held my breath. Would he recognize me? We'd been working together for 3 years, but always in business contexts. I'd never seen him in a casual social setting, and he'd certainly never seen me dressed for a date night dinner. Marcus, this is my sister Emma, the one I've told you so much about, Isabella said, beaming as she made introductions. Marcus extended his hand with a polite smile. Emma, so nice to finally meet you. Isabella talks about you constantly. Nothing. No recognition whatsoever. He looked at me like a complete stranger, which, in the context of his personal life, I suppose I was. It's wonderful to meet you too, I said, shaking his hand. Isabella has told me amazing things about you. We sat down, and Marcus immediately shifted into charming fiancé mode. He pulled out Isabella's chair, complimented her dress, and asked about her day with genuine interest. This was a side of Marcus I'd never seen. Attentive, romantic, focused entirely on his partner's comfort and happiness. Emma works in tech too, Isabella said after we'd ordered drinks. Though nothing as exciting as what you do. She does something with computers for some company up in San Francisco. Oh, really? Marcus said, turning to me with polite interest. What kind of work? I felt like I was in an alternate reality. Software development, I said carefully. Some artificial intelligence applications. That's a hot field right now, Marcus said. Lots of opportunities for growth. Are you enjoying it? Was I enjoying building the company he co-founded? It has its moments, I said. Marcus is being modest, Isabella interjected. He built his company from nothing into this incredible success story. He's brilliant, like, actually brilliant, not just book smart. I almost choked on my wine. Isabella was praising Marcus's intelligence while simultaneously dismissing mine, unaware that she was comparing him favorably to himself. Tell Emma about the IPO, Isabella continued. Marcus, you should explain to her how companies go public. It's so fascinating. Marcus launched into an explanation of initial public offerings that I knew by heart, having spent the last 6 months preparing our own IPO documentation. I nodded and asked appropriate questions, playing the role of impressed sister-in-law-to-be while listening to my business partner explain our shared work as if I'd never heard of it. It sounds incredibly complex, I said when he finished. You must have an amazing team supporting you. I do, Marcus said, especially my co-founder. We've been partners from the beginning, and I honestly couldn't have built NextGen without her expertise. Her. He'd said, her. Isabella's eyebrows shot up. Her? Isabella asked. Your business partner is a woman? Yeah, Emma Rodriguez. Brilliant woman. Probably one of the smartest people I've ever worked with. She handles all our technical development while I focus more on business operations and investor relations. Isabella looked confused. Emma Rodriguez? That's such a coincidence. That's Emma's name too. Marcus glanced at me with mild interest. Rodriguez is a pretty common name, he said. Are you from Los Angeles originally, Emma? Born and raised, I said. My Emma is from LA too, Marcus said to Isabella. Small world? Isabella laughed. It would be so funny if you guys were related or something. Like, what are the odds of 2 Emma Rodriguezes in tech? Pretty slim, Marcus agreed, smiling at what he thought was an amusing coincidence. I excused myself to the restroom, needing a moment to process the absurdity of the situation. In the mirror, I stared at my reflection and wondered how much longer I could maintain this charade. Marcus and I were partners in building something extraordinary, but in this context, I was just Isabella's unremarkable sister, who happened to share a name with his brilliant co-founder. When I returned to the table, Isabella and Marcus were deep in conversation about honeymoon destinations. They were considering Bora Bora, the Maldives, or a tour of European capitals. Marcus was describing each option in detail, clearly having put considerable thought into creating the perfect romantic getaway. Emma, where do you think we should go? Isabella asked, including me in the conversation. Anywhere that makes you both happy, I said diplomatically. Marcus wants to surprise me, Isabella continued. He says the best relationships are built on surprise and adventure. He's always planning these incredible experiences for us. I thought about Marcus in our business context, where surprise was the enemy of good planning and adventure meant calculated risks, with clear profit projections. It was fascinating to see how differently he approached his personal and professional relationships. The evening continued with Isabella monopolizing conversation, describing her latest brand partnerships, her growing social media following, and her plans for leveraging the wedding coverage to expand her influencer career. Marcus listened attentively, asking questions and offering encouragement. When the check came, Marcus paid without hesitation, waving off Isabella's token protest. "My pleasure," he said. "Any night I get to spend with my two favorite women is money well spent." His two favorite women. I was apparently now one of Marcus's favorite people, despite him having no idea who I actually was. As we left the restaurant, Isabella pulled me aside while Marcus retrieved the car from valet parking. "What do you think?" she asked eagerly. "Isn't he perfect? Can you see why I'm so crazy about him?" "He seems wonderful," I said honestly. "He clearly adores you. And he's so smart, Emma. Like, intimidatingly smart. Sometimes I feel like I need to work harder to keep up with him intellectually." This was the most vulnerable I'd seen Isabella in years. For all her confidence and social media success, she was genuinely insecure about her intelligence compared to Marcus. "You're smart in different ways," I said. "You understand people, marketing, building a personal brand. That's valuable too." "Thanks, Emma. That means a lot coming from you. I know we haven't always been super close, but having you as maid of honor means everything to me. I want my big sister there when I marry the love of my life." For a moment, I felt genuinely conflicted. Isabella's happiness was real, even if it was built on a foundation she didn't fully understand. She loved Marcus, and he seemed to care deeply for her. Who was I to complicate that with revelations about my identity? But then Marcus pulled up in his Tesla Model S, the same car I'd helped him choose when we were discussing executive vehicle allowances for company officers. The cognitive dissonance returned full force. Over the following weeks, wedding planning intensified. Isabella had decided on a spring garden theme with blush and gold colors, 300 guests, and a reception at one of Malibu's most exclusive venues. The budget was substantial, funded by Marcus's success in the company we'd built together. I coordinated with florists, photographers, musicians, and caterers, all while maintaining my regular work schedule with Marcus. The parallel universes I was living in became increasingly elaborate. During a Tuesday morning board meeting, Marcus and I presented our Q4 projections to investors. We were a team, finishing each other's sentences, seamlessly coordinating our presentation, demonstrating the kind of professional partnership that had made Next-Gen Solutions so successful. That same Tuesday evening, I spent 3 hours with Isabella at a cake tasting, listening to her debate the merits of different flavored buttercream while she texted Marcus photos of each option for his input. The wedding invitations arrived on a Wednesday. Elegant cream cardstock with gold foil lettering. "Isabella Marie Rodriguez and Marcus James Chen request the pleasure of your company." I held my own invitation, addressed to Miss Emma Rodriguez and guest, and marveled at the formality of being invited to an event I was essentially planning. That Thursday, Marcus mentioned during our weekly one-on-one meeting that he was concerned about work-life balance leading up to his wedding. "I want to make sure I'm fully present for Isabella during this time," he said. "She's planning something really special, and I don't want business demands to interfere with what should be the happiest time of her life." "That's very thoughtful," I said. "Wedding planning can be stressful." "It can be, but Isabella has incredible support. Her sister is handling most of the logistics, which is amazing. I keep telling Isabella how lucky she is to have family who care enough to take on that kind of responsibility." Lucky. Isabella was lucky to have me managing her wedding to my business partner, while neither of them knew who I actually was. "Family support is important," I agreed. "Exactly." and it gives Isabella the freedom to focus on enjoying the experience rather than getting bogged down in details. That's what family is for, right? Being there, when it matters most. I thought about all the times my family had been conspicuously absent when things mattered to me. My college graduation, where they'd spent the ceremony talking about Isabella's latest modeling gig. My first major promotion at Google, which they'd acknowledged with a brief, "That's nice," before launching into excited discussion about Isabella's engagement to her previous boyfriend. My patent approvals, my industry recognition, my growing success. None of it had warranted the kind of enthusiastic family support Marcus was describing. But Isabella's wedding? That deserved my complete dedication and unpaid labor. "You're right," I said. "Family should be there when it matters." As we got closer to the wedding date, I started receiving vendor invoices and coordination emails that provided insight into the true scale of Isabella's celebration. The flowers alone cost more than most people's annual salaries. The photography package included an engagement shoot, bridal portraits, full wedding day coverage, and a post-wedding session. The catering menu featured ingredients flown in from around the world. Marcus was funding a wedding that would have been impossible on Isabella's influencer income, using profits from a company I'd helped build. The irony was almost too perfect to be believed. 2 weeks before the wedding, Isabella had her final dress fitting. She'd chosen a custom Vera Wang gown that required multiple alterations to achieve the perfect fit. I accompanied her to the appointment, along with our mother and Marcus's mother, Catherine Chen. Catherine was exactly what I'd expected from Marcus's descriptions of his family: elegant, accomplished, with the kind of understated confidence that came from generational wealth. She'd been polite, but reserved during our previous interactions, clearly assessing whether Isabella was appropriate wife material for her son. "The dress is stunning," Catherine said, as Isabella modeled the final version. "You look radiant, Isabella." "Thank you so much," Isabella beamed. "I wanted something that would photograph beautifully but also feel timeless. This dress will be perfect for all the wedding coverage we're planning." Catherine's smile tightened slightly at the mention of media coverage. Old money families generally preferred privacy over publicity, but she was clearly making an effort to embrace Isabella's more modern approach to sharing life events. "Emma has been such a godsend throughout this whole process," Isabella continued. "I honestly don't know how brides plan weddings without sisters who are good at organizing details." "That's wonderful," Catherine said, turning to me with genuine warmth. "Marcus mentioned what a help you've been. It says so much about your character that you'd take on such a significant responsibility for your sister's happiness." My character. If Catherine only knew that I was taking on wedding planning responsibilities for the business partner I saw 40 hours a week while pretending we'd never met. "Emma works in tech too," our mother Maria interjected. "She does computer programming up in San Francisco. Nothing as exciting as what Marcus does, of course, but she's always been good with technical things." Catherine nodded politely. "Technology is such an important field. Are you enjoying San Francisco?" "I love it there," I said. "Great opportunities, inspiring colleagues." "Marcus speaks so highly of his business partner," Catherine continued. "He says she's exceptional, brilliant, innovative, someone who really understands the technical side of what they're building together. It's wonderful when you find professional relationships that are truly collaborative." She was praising me to my face while describing me as Marcus's business partner, completely unaware she was talking about the same person. "That does sound wonderful," I agreed. "Collaborative partnerships are rare." Isabella, meanwhile, was examining herself from every angle in the mirror, making sure the dress looked perfect for photos. She'd already planned several outfit changes throughout the wedding day to maximize social media content opportunities. "I keep meaning to ask Marcus to introduce us to his business partner," Isabella said absently. "I'd love to meet her. Maybe she could come to the wedding as Marcus's business guest." "That would be lovely," Catherine agreed. From what Marcus tells me, she's become like family to him over the years. I'm sure she'd be honored to celebrate this milestone, like family. Marcus considered me family while having no idea I was about to become his actual family through marriage to Isabella. The week before the wedding, everything came to a head in the most unexpected way. I was in the office late Thursday evening, finalizing details for our IPO announcement, when Marcus knocked on my door. "Emma, do you have a minute? I wanted to run something by you." "Of course," I said, saving my work. "What's on your mind?" Marcus sat down across from my desk, looking unusually thoughtful. "I've been thinking about the timing of our IPO announcement." Our IPO was scheduled to be announced the Monday after his wedding. Perfect timing to capitalize on post-weekend media cycles and investor availability. "The timing looks good from a market perspective," I said. "Is something changing?" "Not changing." "Exactly. But Isabella and I will be on our honeymoon when the announcement goes live. 2 weeks in Europe, completely offline. I'm wondering if we should push the announcement back so I can be fully present for media interviews and investor calls." I considered this. We'd been working toward this IPO for over a year, and the timing was critical. Post-announcement momentum was crucial for maintaining investor interest and market positioning. "What does Isabella think about you being available for work calls during your honeymoon?" I asked. Marcus ran his hands through his hair. "That's the thing. I haven't told her about the IPO timing yet. She's been so focused on wedding planning, and I didn't want to add any stress about work obligations interfering with our honeymoon." "Marcus, this is a pretty significant work event to keep from your fiancé." I know. I just... Isabella doesn't really understand the business side of what we do. When I try to explain company stuff, she gets overwhelmed or bored. She supports my career, but she's not really interested in the details." This was fascinating. Marcus felt like he couldn't share one of the most important professional milestones of his life with the woman he was about to marry because she wasn't interested in understanding his work. "Have you considered that maybe she'd be more interested if you included her more?" I suggested. "Some people disengage when they feel excluded." "Maybe. But honestly, Emma, I like having clear boundaries between work and personal life. With Isabella, I can just be Marcus the boyfriend, the fiancé, eventually the husband. I don't have to be Marcus the CEO or Marcus the entrepreneur. It's refreshing. And with me, you get to be Marcus the business partner." "Exactly. You understand this world, you speak the language, you get why something like an IPO matters. With Isabella, I can focus on other parts of myself." I stared at him, struck by the compartmentalization he'd just described. He'd created separate versions of himself for different relationships, and apparently never considered that integration might be healthier than division. "What if Isabella wants to understand your work better?" I asked. "What if she's interested in being part of all aspects of your life, not just the romantic parts?" Marcus looked skeptical. "I don't think that's really her thing. Isabella is focused on her own career, her brand building, her social media presence. She's successful in her own right. She doesn't need to be involved in my business." "But marriage is a partnership, Marcus. Don't you want a relationship where you can share everything?" "I thought I did," he said slowly. "But honestly, having someone who loves me for who I am outside of work has been incredible. Isabella sees me as Marcus the person, not Marcus the successful CEO. There's something pure about that." Pure. He thought Isabella's disinterest in his professional life was pure, while my deep engagement with his work was apparently less authentic. "What are you going to do about the IPO timing?" I asked, steering us back to practical matters. "I think I want to push it back 2 weeks. This is too important for me to be unreachable during the crucial first few days." I nodded, though internally I was frustrated. We'd been working toward this timeline for months, And now Marcus wanted to delay because he hadn't bothered to discuss it with Isabella beforehand. "I'll start reaching out to investors and media contacts tomorrow," I said. "We can frame it as strategic timing rather than a delay." "Thanks, Emma. I knew you'd understand." Marcus left, and I sat alone in my office, processing our conversation. He valued our business partnership because I understood his work, but he valued his relationship with Isabella because she didn't. He wanted professional collaboration with me and personal compartmentalization with her. I wondered what would happen if he discovered that I was capable of both professional excellence and personal loyalty. What would he think if he learned that the sister-in-law who'd spent months planning his wedding was the same business partner who'd spent years building his company? The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my hotel room at the Malibu venue, staring at the ceiling and running through everything that would happen the next day. In 12 hours, I would stand beside Isabella as she married Marcus. I would hand her the rings we'd chosen together during a business meeting about employee benefits packages. I would listen to them exchange vows while knowing more about Marcus's professional goals than his bride did. After the ceremony, there would be cocktails and dinner and dancing. Marcus would introduce me to business contacts as Isabella's sister, never realizing he was introducing them to his co-founder. Investors who knew my name and reputation would shake my hand politely, assuming I was just another wedding guest. Isabella would be radiant, living out her dream of being the center of attention at a lavish celebration. She'd dance with Marcus, cut the cake, pose for endless photos, and cement her position as the successful daughter who'd married well. And I would smile and coordinate logistics and make sure everything ran smoothly, playing the supporting role I'd been assigned since childhood. My phone buzzed with a text from Isabella. "Emma, I'm so nervous and excited I can't sleep. Thank you for making everything perfect. I love you and I can't wait for tomorrow." Despite everything, I felt a genuine warmth toward my sister. Her happiness was real, even if it was built on a foundation she didn't fully understand. She was about to marry a man who cared deeply for her, even if he didn't know her well enough to share his whole life with her. I texted back, "You're going to be the most beautiful bride. Get some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be perfect." And it would be perfect, in its own complicated way. Isabella would get her dream wedding, Marcus would get the personal life he wanted separate from work, and I would get the fascinating experience of watching it all unfold from the inside. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and warm, perfect California weather for an outdoor ceremony. I arrived at the venue early to coordinate final details with vendors, while Isabella and the other bridesmaids got ready in the bridal suite. The venue was transformed into a garden paradise. Thousands of white and blush roses created romantic arches and centerpieces. String lights hung between trees, creating a magical canopy over the ceremony space. The reception area featured long tables with gold chargers and crystal stemware, exactly as Isabella had envisioned. I moved through the space making final adjustments, checking that flowers were properly positioned, that the photographer had clear sightlines, that the musicians had everything they needed. This was the culmination of 4 months of planning, and I was determined that everything would be flawless. At noon, I joined Isabella and the bridal party for final preparations. Isabella looked stunning in her Vera Wang gown, her hair styled in loose Hollywood waves, her makeup perfectly highlighting her natural beauty. She was glowing with happiness and excitement. "Emma, you're a miracle worker," she said, hugging me carefully to avoid disturbing her dress. "Everything looks absolutely perfect. I can't believe this is really happening." "You deserve every bit of this happiness," I said honestly. Whatever complications surrounded this wedding, Isabella's joy was genuine, and she had earned the right to celebrate finding love. The ceremony was scheduled for 4 o'clock, giving us plenty of time for photos and final preparations. Isabella's photographer captured her getting ready, the bridal party in matching robes, Details shots of the dress and jewelry and flowers. At 3:30, guests began arriving. I watched from the bridal suite window as familiar faces made their way to their seats. Family members, college friends, Marcus's business associates, Isabella's influencer crowd, all the important people from both their worlds. At 3:45, I helped Isabella into her car for the short drive to the ceremony entrance. The plan was for her to make a grand entrance walking down the aisle while I preceded her with the other bridesmaids. At 3:55, we lined up for the processional. I could see Marcus at the altar, looking handsome in his custom tuxedo, his face radiant with anticipation. He was flanked by his groomsmen, including his brother David and several college friends. The music began, and one by one, the bridesmaids walked down the aisle. When my turn came, I made my way slowly toward the altar, smiling at guests and focusing on maintaining the elegant pace Isabella had requested. As I reached the front, I caught Marcus's eye. He smiled at me warmly, the same polite, friendly expression he'd worn when we met at dinner months ago. No recognition, just appreciation for his future sister-in-law's role in making the day special. Then the music changed to the bridal march, and all eyes turned toward the back of the aisle as Isabella appeared. She was breathtaking, floating down the aisle like something from a fairy tale. Marcus's face transformed with emotion as he saw her, and for a moment, the complications and secrets didn't matter. This was two people who loved each other, celebrating their commitment in front of everyone who mattered to them. The ceremony was beautiful and traditional, with personal vows that brought tears to many eyes. Isabella promised to support Marcus's dreams and ambitions, while Marcus promised to protect and cherish Isabella always. They exchanged rings, the same rings I'd helped choose during a business meeting about employee benefits, and were pronounced husband and wife. As they kissed and the crowd erupted in applause, I felt a strange mix of emotions: happiness for their obvious love, sadness for the secrets that surrounded it, and curiosity about what would happen next. The cocktail hour was elegant and lively, with guests mingling in the garden while the newlyweds posed for more photos. I circulated among family and friends, accepting compliments on the wedding coordination and making sure everyone felt welcomed and comfortable. During dinner, I was seated at the family table with Isabella and Marcus's immediate relatives. Marcus's parents were charming, asking about my work and expressing gratitude for my role in wedding planning. "Emma, Marcus tells us you've been absolutely invaluable throughout this process," his father Robert said. "We can't thank you enough for making this day so special for Isabella." "It's been my pleasure," I replied. "Isabella deserves the perfect wedding, and I'm happy I could help make it happen." "Marcus speaks so highly of his business partner," Catherine added. "He says she's like family to him. I wish he could have been here tonight to celebrate with everyone. I nearly choked on my wine." "Maybe next time," I managed. The speeches began during dessert. Marcus's best man told funny stories about their college years. Isabella's college roommate shared memories of their friendship and her excitement about Isabella finding her perfect match. Then Marcus stood up to speak. "I want to thank everyone for being here to celebrate with Isabella and me tonight," he began. "This has been the most incredible day of my life, and having all of you here to witness our commitment means everything to us." He looked around the room, his eyes landing on me briefly before moving on. "I especially want to thank the people who made this day possible. Isabella's family, who welcomed me with open arms and treated me like a son from day one. My family, who raised me to value love and commitment above all else. And Isabella's sister Emma, who coordinated every detail of this celebration with incredible skill and dedication." The room applauded, and I smiled graciously, playing the role of devoted sister. "Emma," Marcus continued, "watching you support Isabella through this process has shown me what true family loyalty looks like. You've been selfless and generous with your time and energy, and I'm honored to officially welcome you into our family. Our family. Marcus was welcoming me into a family where I was already a central figure, though he had no idea. Finally, he said, turning to Isabella, I want to thank my beautiful wife for choosing to build a life with me. Isabella, you've made me a better man, and I promise to spend every day of our marriage making you as happy as you've made me. Isabella dabbed at her eyes with her napkin, trying not to disturb her makeup. The love between them was obvious and genuine, even if it was built on incomplete understanding of who they really were. The dancing began after dinner, and Marcus and Isabella took the floor for their first dance as husband and wife. They moved together gracefully, lost in each other and the moment, while guests watched with warm smiles. As the evening progressed, I found myself in the unusual position of being congratulated for my event planning skills by people who had no idea I was capable of much more complex organizational achievements. Business associates who knew my name and reputation from Next Gen Solutions shook my hand and complimented the wedding coordination, never making the connection between Emma Rodriguez, the CEO, and Emma Rodriguez, the Maid of Honor. At one point, I overheard a conversation between two of Marcus's investors. Beautiful wedding, one said. Marcus seems happy. He should be. Guy's about to be worth hundreds of millions when Next Gen goes public next month. Lucky timing, getting married right before the IPO announcement. Smart, too. His co-founder Emma Rodriguez is brilliant. She's the real technical genius behind their success. Marcus handles business development, but Emma's innovations are what made the company valuable. They were discussing my professional achievements while I stood 3 feet away in a bridesmaid dress, invisible to them in this context. Near the end of the evening, as vendors were beginning to pack up and guests were starting to leave, Marcus found me near the bar. Emma, I can't thank you enough for everything you've done, he said earnestly. This has been perfect, absolutely perfect. Isabella is over the moon, and I know it's because of all your hard work. I'm just happy she's happy, I replied. I hope we'll stay close now that I'm officially part of the family. I'd love for you to meet my business partner sometime. I think you two would get along really well. You're both incredibly capable women who know how to get things done. The irony was almost unbearable. I'd love to meet her sometime. I'll make it happen. Maybe we can all have dinner when Isabella and I get back from our honeymoon. That sounds perfect. Marcus hugged me goodbye, a warm, familial embrace that felt surreal given our actual relationship. Thank you for welcoming me into your family, Emma. I'm honored to be your brother-in-law, my brother-in-law, who was also my business partner, who had no idea who I really was. After the last guests left and the vendors finished packing up, I sat alone on the hotel balcony, processing the evening. Isabella and Marcus had left for their hotel suite, radiant with happiness and excitement about their new life together. The wedding had been perfect, exactly what Isabella had dreamed of, a celebration worthy of the social media coverage she'd planned, a day that would be remembered and talked about for years. But it had also been built on a foundation of secrets and assumptions that couldn't last forever. Marcus and Isabella loved each other, but they didn't really know each other. He compartmentalized his life so completely that he'd married into a family without recognizing his business partner. She was so focused on external success that she'd never bothered to learn what her sister actually did for a living. In 2 weeks, they'd return from their honeymoon to find their lives dramatically changed. The Next Gen IPO would be announced, making Marcus and me both incredibly wealthy and very public. Isabella would learn that her unsuccessful sister was actually a multi-millionaire CEO. Marcus would discover that his business partner and his sister-in-law were the same person. I wondered how they'd handle the revelations. Would Marcus feel deceived that I'd kept my identity secret? Would Isabella be angry that I'd hidden my success? Would their marriage survive the discovery that their perfect compartmentalized life was built on incomplete information? My phone buzzed with a text from Isabella. Emma, thank you for the most perfect day of my life. I love you so much, and I'm so grateful to have you as my sister. You're the best maid of honor ever. I smiled, genuinely moved by her happiness. Whatever happened next, today had been about celebrating love, and that was worth preserving. I texted back, Congratulations, Mrs. Chen. Enjoy every moment of your honeymoon. You deserve all the happiness in the world. And she did deserve happiness, even if she was about to discover that her world was more complicated than she'd realized. 2 weeks later, Marcus and Isabella returned from their European honeymoon, tanned and relaxed and full of stories about romantic dinners and historic sights and perfect weather. They'd posted carefully curated photos throughout their trip. Isabella in designer outfits against stunning backdrops, the two of them looking like a fairy tale couple living their best life. They returned on a Sunday, and Marcus was scheduled to be back in the office Monday morning for our IPO announcement. The timing was perfect from a business perspective, but I suspected it was about to complicate their personal lives significantly. Monday morning arrived with typical Silicon Valley energy. Our office was buzzing with excitement. Journalists were scheduled for interviews, and investors were preparing for the market opening that would make Next Gen Solutions a publicly traded company. Marcus arrived early, looking refreshed and happy from his honeymoon, but ready to focus on business. We had a brief meeting to review final details, and then the announcement went live. Within hours, Next Gen Solutions was trending on financial news sites. Our IPO was oversubscribed, our stock price opened strong, and business media was calling us one of the most successful tech launches of the year. Marcus and I spent the day in back-to-back interviews, explaining our technology, our growth strategy, and our vision for the company's future. We were a team again, finishing each other's sentences, demonstrating the kind of partnership that had made NextGen successful. That evening, I was in my office reviewing media coverage when my phone exploded with notifications. Isabella had apparently just seen the news. Emma, what the hell is going on? Marcus's company went public today and there are pictures of you everywhere with him? People are calling you his business partner? Call me right now. I stared at my phone, knowing that the careful compartmentalization of the past few months was about to collapse completely. Before I could decide how to respond, Marcus appeared in my doorway. Emma, we need to talk. Isabella just called me, and she's confused about some of the media coverage today. I looked at him, seeing recognition dawning in his eyes for the first time. You're Emma Rodriguez, he said slowly. You're not just Emma Rodriguez, the sister-in-law. You're Emma Rodriguez, my business partner. Yes. How long have you known? Since the day Isabella told me she was engaged to Marcus Chen. Marcus sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk. You've known for 4 months that I was marrying your sister? Yes. And you didn't say anything? What was I supposed to say? Surprise? Your fiancée is my sister, the one who thinks I'm an unemployed failure? Marcus ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I'd seen countless times during stressful business situations. This is insane. Isabella doesn't know about NextGen, about what we've built together. She knows you're successful. She doesn't know I'm successful. Our family has never asked about my career. But you're a millionaire, Emma. You're about to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. How does your family not know that? Because they never asked. They assumed I was struggling, and it was easier to let them assume than to fight their narrative. My phone rang. Isabella. You should probably answer that, Marcus said grimly. I put the phone on speaker. Emma Rodriguez, you better start explaining what the hell is going on right now. Isabella's voice filled the office, shaking with emotion. Hello, Isabella. Don't hello, Isabella, me. I just spent the last hour Googling your name and finding out that my unemployed sister is apparently some kind of tech mogul who's been secretly working with my husband for years. What kind of sick game have you been playing? Marcus leaned forward. Isabella, it's not a game. Marcus? Are you with her right now? What is happening? Why didn't either of you tell me? We need to talk in person, Marcus said. This is too complicated for a phone conversation. Complicated? Complicated? My husband has been working with my sister for 3 years and neither of them bothered to mention it. My sister planned my entire wedding while pretending she'd never met my fiancé. What else have you two been lying about? The accusation hung in the air. Isabella's mind was going to the darkest possible places, which was understandable given the circumstances. Isabella, there's nothing inappropriate happening, I said firmly. Marcus and I are business partners. That's all we've ever been. Business partners who couldn't be bothered to mention that they knew each other when I was planning my wedding? It's complicated, Marcus said again. Stop saying that. Either you were having an affair or you were playing some kind of elaborate joke on me. Which is it? Neither, I said. Isabella, Marcus had no idea I was your sister until today. I never told him. That's impossible. You have the same last name. Rodriguez is a common name. He never made the connection. So you knew? But you didn't tell him? Yes. Why? I looked at Marcus, then at my phone where Isabella's voice was coming through, filled with hurt and confusion and anger. Because I wanted to see how long it would take for someone in our family to actually ask about my life, I said quietly. The line went silent. What do you mean? Isabella finally asked, her voice smaller now. Isabella, you've been married to my business partner for 6 months, engaged to him for 10 months, and dating him for a year and a half. In all that time, no one in our family asked enough questions about my career to discover that I work with your husband. That's not, I mean, we knew you worked in tech. You knew I did something with computers. You never asked what company, what role, what I was building. You assumed I was struggling and treated me accordingly. Marcus was staring at me, pieces clicking into place. Your family doesn't know about your success, he said slowly. At all. They know what they chose to know. I'm the family failure who's good at cooking and organizing events. Isabella is the success story who married well. But Emma, Isabella's voice was confused now, less angry. Why didn't you just tell us? Why let us think? Because every time I tried to share good news about my career, it got overshadowed by whatever you were doing. It became easier to just let you all believe what you wanted to believe. This is... Isabella paused. I need to see you both. In person. Tonight. Marcus and I looked at each other. Okay, Marcus said. Come to the office. We'll explain everything. 2 hours later, Isabella arrived at Next Gen Solutions looking shell-shocked. She'd clearly been crying, and her usual polished appearance was disheveled. She looked around our office space like she was seeing an alien landscape. This is where you work, she said to me. This is where we work, I corrected, gesturing to Marcus and myself. Isabella sat down in our conference room, and Marcus and I took seats across from her. For the first time since I'd known them as a couple, all three of us were in the same room with complete honesty about who we all were. Start from the beginning, Isabella said, and don't leave anything out. So we did. Marcus and I explained how we'd met in graduate school, how we'd developed the initial algorithms that became NextGen's core technology, how we'd incorporated the company and built it together over 3 years. I explained how I'd learned about their engagement, how I'd recognized Marcus's name, and how I'd made the decision to keep my identity secret. Isabella listened without interrupting, her expression cycling through confusion, hurt, anger, and something that might have been admiration. So, When I was bragging about Marcus's success, she said finally, I was actually bragging about your success too. Our success, I corrected. Marcus and I built this together. And when I was asking you to plan my wedding to your business partner, I was planning a wedding for my sister to marry my closest professional colleague. Yes. Isabella put her head in her hands. This is insane. Absolutely insane. Isabella, Marcus said gently, I need you to understand something. Emma and I never kept this secret to hurt you. I had no idea she was your sister until today. But she knew. Yes, I knew, I said. And I made a choice to let events play out naturally rather than complicate your relationship. By lying to both of us. By not volunteering information that no one asked for. Isabella looked up at me. Emma, I ask about your life. I know I do. You ask if I'm eating enough, if I'm dating anyone, if I'm happy living alone. You've never asked what I do for work, what my goals are, what I'm building. Because Isabella started to defend herself, then stopped. Because I assumed you weren't doing anything important. The words hung in the air, brutal in their honesty. Yes, I said simply. You assumed I wasn't doing anything important. Marcus was looking between us, understanding dawning. Isabella, you really didn't know Emma was successful? I thought she was struggling. I thought she lived in some tiny apartment and worked at some boring tech support job. I thought I was the successful sister. Based on what? Marcus asked. Based on, I don't know. Based on Mom always talking about my career and never mentioning Emma's. Based on Emma always being available to help with family stuff instead of being busy with work. Based on her never talking about achievements or promotions or any of the things successful people talk about. I stopped talking about achievements because no one listened, I said. Every time I mentioned something good happening at work, the conversation immediately shifted to your latest brand partnership or social media milestone. Isabella was quiet for a long moment. Oh God, she whispered. Emma, how successful are you? Like specifically? Marcus and I exchanged glances. As of today's IPO, Marcus said, Emma and I each own about 30% of Next Gen Solutions, which is worth approximately $400 million each. Isabella's face went white. $400 million? Give or take, I said. My sister is worth $400 million. Your sister co-founded a company that's now worth over $1 billion. Marcus corrected. Isabella stood up abruptly and walked to the window overlooking the San Francisco skyline. I've been condescending to a multimillionaire for years, she said to her reflection. You've been condescending to your sister, I said gently. The money is recent. Emma, the apartment I've never visited because I assumed it was too small and sad to bother with. 3-bedroom penthouse with a view of the park. The computer job I dismissed as boring. Revolutionary artificial intelligence technology that's reshaping multiple industries. The reason you were always available to help with family events. I'm my own boss, so I control my schedule. Isabella turned around slowly. Why didn't you just tell me? When, Isabella? When would have been the right time to say, actually, I'm incredibly successful. You just never bothered to notice. At any point in the last 3 years. I tried. Remember when I got the patent approval and mentioned it at Christmas dinner? Mom said, "That's nice, dear," and immediately started talking about your engagement to Brad. Remember when I mentioned the Forbes interview? Dad said, "Good for you," and asked if I'd seen your latest Instagram campaign. Marcus was listening to this exchange with growing understanding. Your family never celebrated your achievements, he said. They never knew about my achievements because they never asked the right questions. It was easier to assume I was the unsuccessful daughter than to dig deeper and discover I wasn't. Isabella came back to the table and sat down. Emma, I'm sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry. I had no idea. I know you didn't. That's exactly the problem. But why plan my wedding? Why go through all of that if you resented us so much? I considered the question carefully. Because despite everything, you're my sister, and you were happy. Because Marcus is a good man who genuinely loves you, even if he compartmentalizes his life in ways that aren't entirely healthy. Because I wanted to see if anyone would ever ask the right questions to discover who I really am. And we never did. No, you never did. Marcus had been quiet during this exchange, but now he spoke up. Isabella, I need to apologize too. I should have made the connection between Emma Rodriguez, my business partner, and Emma Rodriguez, your sister. How could you have known? Isabella asked. Because I should have been more interested in your family, in your background, in the details of your life outside of our relationship. I compartmentalized our personal relationship so completely that I never bothered to learn enough about your family to recognize that your sister was someone I already knew. Isabella looked between us. So we're all guilty of not seeing each other clearly. It seems that way, I agreed. What happens now? Isabella asked. Marcus and I looked at each other. It was a good question. Now we figure out how to move forward honestly, Marcus said. All three of us. Emma, Isabella said, can you forgive me for being such a terrible sister? I looked at her, seeing vulnerability I'd rarely witnessed before. Isabella, you weren't terrible. You were just limited in your perspective. We all were. I want to do better. I want to know who you really are. I'd like that too. Marcus reached across the table and took Isabella's hand. We're going to figure this out, he said. All of us together. 6 months later, our family dynamic had shifted completely. Isabella had thrown herself into understanding my work with the same enthusiasm she'd once reserved for building her social media presence. She'd started a podcast about women in tech, featuring interviews with female entrepreneurs and focusing on the stories that often went untold. Marcus had made an effort to integrate his personal and professional lives more authentically. He'd started including Isabella in business discussions and had worked to see her as a full partner rather than someone who needed protection from the complexities of his career. Our parents had required more time to adjust to the reality that their unsuccessful daughter was actually more financially successful than they'd ever imagined. But they'd eventually embraced the truth, and our family gatherings had become more balanced, with genuine interest in everyone's achievements. Isabella and Marcus's marriage had survived the revelations and emerged stronger. They'd learned to see each other more completely, to share more honestly, and to build a relationship based on full knowledge rather than comfortable assumptions. As for me, I'd learned that keeping secrets, even for understandable reasons, ultimately served no one. I'd also learned that family dynamics could change when people were willing to see each other differently. The wedding that was supposed to humiliate me had actually liberated all of us from the limited roles we'd assigned each other. Sometimes the most transformative moments come not from dramatic confrontations, but from the slow revelation of truth. That was always there, waiting to be discovered by people willing to ask better questions and see each other more clearly. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, or been surprised to discover that someone you thought you knew well was actually living a completely different life than you imagined, I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. How did you navigate the complexity of family expectations versus personal reality? And if this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing. We're building a community of people who believe that everyone deserves to be seen for who they really are, not just who others assume them to be. Remember, the most important relationship you can have is an authentic one, with yourself and with the people who matter most to you. Don't let assumptions, yours or theirs, prevent you from being fully known and appreciated.